Hi everyone, how are you all? So I'm back here with another video in the complete Python series, and in today's class I'll be discussing about recursion in Python. So without any further delay, let's get started. So my dear friends, now I'll be discussing with you about the basics of recursion. So, my dear friends, now I will be discussing with you about the basics of recursion. So, let's get started. All right. So, what are the basics of recursion? So, let me discuss that with you. All right. So, what do we understand by recursion? Let me give you firstly the basic definition. What exactly is recursion? So, my dear friends, I can say that recursion is a programming technique. Recursion is a programming technique. I could say it is a programming technique in which, my dear friends, I could say that where a function calls itself to solve the problem. Where a function where a function calls itself where a function calls itself to solve the problem. I hope you got it all. That's great. So it will call itself simply to solve the problem. So that's great, my dear students. So what is the structure of a recursive function? Let me discuss that with you about the structure of recursive function. So let me tell you, my dear students, what is exactly the structure of a recursive function. Okay, so first one is the base case. First one comes the base case, which simply I could say that, my dear students, it will simply stop the recursion. So when we want to stop the recursion, we will go for the base case. And the second one is, I could say that, the recursive case. Okay, my dear students. So what is the recursive case exactly? In this, the function calls itself with a smaller and simpler problem. So in this case, I could say that, my dear students, that the function calls itself with, I could say, with a smaller and simpler problem. With a smaller and simpler problem. I hope you got it. So that's great, my dear students. So these are the two steps for the recursion. But definitely it will be getting more clear when I'll be discussing with you a live example. So let me discuss that with you. All right, my dear friends, brief about that. So here I have opened the Python practice. I'm going to create a file that is recursion recursion.py. So it is going to be a very basic code in recursion. Okay, so let me discuss that with you, my dear friends. Firstly, I'm defining a function which is a factorial. All right, so it is a factorial, and it is simply, I could say that, of the n numbers. All right, after that, there comes, I could say, the double dots, and in this, I will add a base case. The base case is the one where my recursion will stop. If my n equals 0, in that case, simply my code will return me 1. Okay, so my code will return me 1 in case my n is equivalent to 0. I hope you got it, my dear students. So this is simply, I will write over here in the comment section that this is simply my base case. I hope it is pretty much clear to all of you. Now let me discuss with you another thing, which is I could say return n, I could say times, return n times, I could say factorial of n minus 1. So I'll be calculating the factorial of n minus 1 and I'll be returning that value. Okay, so this is my complete code for the recursion. So let me tell you about the complete workflow about this, how the recursion will take place. Okay, my dear students. So let me explain you this code in brief now. Okay. So in this case, my dear students, I could say that, let me tell you, let me just take you to the next sheet. Okay. So yeah. So let me tell you, my dear students, in this case, I can simply say that, let's say my code is, I could say, the code is something like, it goes like define, and here is a factorial of n, and here will be double dots, and after that it will come if my n equal to 0, if my n equals 0, so it will simply return me as 1, else it will return me as n times, I could say again the factorial function will be called factorial n minus 1. So let me explain this to you, my dear students. Okay, so in this case, my dear students, I can simply say that, let's say this is number is 5. Okay, firstly my code will check if it is equivalent to 5 or not. So it has checked it is not equivalent to 5. The next line of the code will also not run. If I will move to this line, it will calculate 5 times the factorial of 4. Factorial of 4. So now, my dear students, again a call will go to my function and this factorial of 4 will be calculated. So when we have to calculate this factorial of 4, in that case again when I will return at this position, it will do 5 times 4 times factorial of 3. So in this case again the factorial of 3 will be called, and then again my function will be running. In the another iteration I will be getting 5 times 4 times 3 times the factorial of 2. Again my function will be called and I will be getting 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times factorial of 1. So at the end, my dear students, when I will be getting factorial of 1, so in that case also my function will be running and I will be getting this. Okay, and in the last case when it will become 1 minus 1, that is 0, in that case it will simply return me, and in this case firstly in this case it will not run, and it will simply return me the factorial of the number, that is 120, which is my final answer after calculating 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. I hope it is pretty much clear to all of you, my dear students. So this was the basic, you know, basic workflow, basic, I could say the procedure behind recursion. Okay. So now let me discuss with you about, let's say I have to find the factorial of 5. Let's say I have found that, I'm saving that answer in, I could say, some rx variable. I'm saving the value of factorial of 5. Then let me print the value of x now. So let's just run this code and let's see I'm getting my desired output or not. So yes, my dear students, I've got 120. That is absolutely the right answer. So let's say, my dear friends, I'm giving this input, this function, this recursion code input as 0. So it will return me 1. In case I'm giving it as input as 1, it will simply return me 1 itself. So that's how, my dear friends, the code of recursion works. So that was all about it for today. I have discussed with you about a very basic code on recursion. I would recommend to all of you to try one or two codes on it, and then I'll definitely in my next class I will be discussing more advanced problems on recursion. So till then, stay tuned for more and don't forget to like, subscribe and share to my channel. So till then, I wish you all good luck. Bye bye.